If this is your closing argument,
the only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters.
We truly hate half of this country. This could literally cost them not just the presidential. I think this could cost them the Senate.
You know Biden's senile. You guys said he was senile and should get out of the race. Now you're like, oh, no. He means it. He's perfectly cogent. He represents all Democrats.
Ben, I'm about to kick your ass.
Calm down. I'm gonna beat you up.
I'm here for the MAGA tears. They're sugar for my chai.
So talk about selective outrage. You cry over misgendering someone. When a dude looks like a dude and identifies as a woman and is called she, you start crying.
He's called them radical left lunatics, Marxists, communists, fascists. He said that we should use the military to attack the enemy from within. And then you're pretending that all of a sudden you caught feelings?
The Harris campaign began with joy and closed with fear. Hope became Hitler. Vibes became tribes. And the brat summer, well, it became a flat fall. The vice president made her final argument last night. She chose the ellipse in Washington, D.C. And again, the argument was more about how awful Donald Trump is than about how good she is. In fact, she mentioned Trump 24 times.
We know who Donald Trump is. He is the person who stood at this very spot nearly 4 years ago and sent an armed mob to the United States Capitol to overturn the will of the people in a free and fair election. An election that he knew he lost.
Well, the polls have told us for weeks that voters feel Harris has not yet defined who she is and what she really wants to do. Last night she tried, and she really did try. There's a lot more autobiography. It was a self-effacing plea to be given a chance. Above all, she tried to cast herself as a unifying force in a country knotted by division. But the crucial final days of her campaign have been squandered on a dark fantasy of fascists, gulags and Nazis. You can't unite and divide at the same time. You can't be for joy and nihilistic Nazism at the same time. And even as she spoke, looming behind her in the White House, the ghost of elections past appeared to give her one last splitting headache.
And just the other day, a speaker at his rally called Puerto Rico a floating island of garbage. Well, let me tell you something. I don't know the Puerto Rican that I know, or Puerto Rico where I'm in my home state of Delaware. They're good, decent, honorable people. The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters.
Well, that was a staggeringly stupid outburst, which belongs in Hillary Clinton's infamous basket of deplorables slur against effectively half of America. I didn't like Tony Hinchcliffe's jokes at the Trump rally. I just didn't think they were very funny. But we've had 2 days of uproar about an acerbic comedian known for his roasts because he joked that Puerto Rico is an island of garbage. But now the President of the United States has declared that half the population of his own country is human trash. It's hard to imagine a better way of turning out the Republican vote. Meanwhile, the Democrat strategy for turning out their own vote appears to be full-blown shrieking hysteria.
The stakes literally are life and death for every woman in America.
I mean, you're a journalist. You and I might be sharing a cell in 6 months from now.
Support Muslims, and he wants to start internment camps. And that's what we are busy talking to every voter. He's telling you what he's going to do. Believe him.
Internment camps?
Yes, he's talked internment camps.
Taking it from a Brit, this is starting to feel like the Brexit debate back in England. I voted and argued against that decision to leave the European Union. I still do. But the Brexit campaigners ran a smart campaign which branded their opponents as Project Fear, while the Remain campaign ran around saying everyone on the other side was a terrible racist. If you browbeat people who are not happy with the state of their lives by telling them that everything will get even worse if they dare to defy you, well, don't be surprised if they decide to roll the dice. To debate, I'm joined by Cenk Uygur, who's the host and founder of Young Turks, by Wajahat Ali, the co-host of the Democracy-ish Podcast, Ben Ferguson, co-host of Verdict with Ted Cruz, and broadcaster and influencer Emily Austin. Well, 4 absolute powerhouses to debate all this. And we're going to debate garbage, Hitler and war. What could bring the 4 of us all together, or 5 of us all together, better than that? Let me start with you, Ben Ferguson. It's been a tough couple of days for Donald Trump ever since the rally, which I was at Madison Square Garden, where they're on the back foot trying to defend what this comedian Tony Hinchcliffe has said about Puerto Rico being an island of garbage. And it must have felt like literal manna from heaven last night when Joe Biden suddenly appeared out of nowhere in his bunker on a Skype call of all things,
Yeah.
right as Kamala Harris was presenting her final plea to the nation. And he calls basically every Trump voter in America, so 80 million plus people, garbage. Your thoughts?
Look, in politics, the last week of a campaign, your surrogate's job is to do no harm. And Joe Biden went out there and said something that was just unconscionable. And if you're going to say you're outraged by a comedian, and I didn't like what he said either. I think most people were pretty, bang on with what you and I saw. Like, come on, like, don't say that. I disagree with it. And it was a bad moment for the campaign because now you're not talking about the issues in that moment. But when he walks out there and he says that Americans are, as he describes it, floating garbage, that's the gift that just keeps on giving. But when you connect the dots, like as much as people say that he's senile and obviously had to drop out of this race, look at what the Democratic Party has said, that, conservatives cling to God and they mock God and guns. You have, Kamala the other day saying you're at the wrong rally when someone says something about believing in Jesus Christ. And then you've got the basket of deplorables by the way, Donald Trump's Hitler in the last week, and that he's a fascist, and that Kamala Harris believes he's a fascist. If this is your closing argument to the American people, that we truly hate half of this country, and we think that you are deplorables, that you are garbage, that you are fascist, that you are Nazis, that you are Hitler, I don't think that's the closing argument that the Democratic Party or any strategist would say, yes, this is what you should be saying in the last days. And I think this could literally cost them not just the presidential. I think this could cost them the Senate, and I think it could cost them some House seats as well, because it is the worst things you could say about half the country going into the final days. You're supposed to have some hope. I mean, Barack Obama, remember, why did he win? He won because he ran off of hope and change. There was some unity in his message. It was hard to land punches against him when he was running against McCain. And people felt like he was going to bring the country together. Kamala Harris is doing the complete opposite of that. I don't understand it. It's inexplicable to me that this is their campaign strategy.
All right, Cenk, you've been smirking there, but I've got to say, you tweeted several days ago you thought Trump might be heading for victory. When I heard this garbage line last night from Biden, and whatever the White House tries to do by putting an apostrophe at the end, trying to pretend he was talking about Hinchcliffe, it's very clear he said supporters. If you label Trump supporters as garbage, you are falling into exactly the same trap, as Ben Ferguson just said, that Hillary Clinton did, of wiping out an entire section of the American society as deplorable, garbage, whatever. And coming off the back of the absurd Nazi Hitler nonsense, what happened? My question for you is, what happened to the joy? Where's the joy gone here?
You see, I've still got the joy because I'm about to tell you how ridiculous you guys are. But first, let me acknowledge things that are true. So, number one, Biden shouldn't have said it. Look, my co-host on the Young Turks, Anna Kasparian, has been trying to get everybody to stop attacking the voters themselves. I think she's absolutely right about that. I've been guilty of that in the past, and we're trying to get past this. So Biden shouldn't have said that. On the other hand, you know Biden's senile. I mean, look at that clip that you played, stuttering up Puerto Rico, Delaware, and we're still. You guys said he was senile and should get out of the race. Now you're like, oh, no, he means it. He's perfectly cogent. He represents all Democrats. So
well, hang on.
By the way, don't say things like,
hang on.
Okay,
just
here we go.
Clear,
of course.
Just to be clear, just to be clear.
Ben speaks for 2 minutes, and I always get interrupted.
No, you'll have plenty of time. But just to be clear, he remains the president of the United States. Joe Biden hasn't quit. He remains in the Oval Office running your country. So I'm sorry to jump in
Piers,
and point out that we may think he's senile, which I do, but he's still running your country.
Okay, Piers, you know my position on Biden. I ran against him because I thought he was senile, and I thought it was ridiculous. But now all of a sudden you're pretending he's not senile. He is senile. It's like getting mad at somebody with Alzheimer's. What are you getting mad at him for? Well, that's ridiculous. But that's not the point, guys. Look, I'm granting you that he definitely shouldn't have said that, and Debbie Dingell definitely shouldn't have said internment camps because Trump never said that. Now, having said that, guys, are you really pretending to be offended after you've supported Donald Trump, who has said everything in the world about left-wing voters, radical left lunatics? Hey, here we go again. No interruptions. He's called them radical left lunatics, Marxist, communist, fascist. He said that we should use the military to attack the enemy from within. and then you're pretending that all of a sudden you caught feelings?
pretending.
MAGA, do better than that. You're being ridiculous and you know it. Now you're snowflakes. Now you're snowflakes. After all
right,
of
let me
these
bring- okay.
incredible insults.
Hang on. Don't all shout.
Hold on,
Let me bring in Emily. Let me bring in Emily. Emily, apparently we're snowflakes if we're offended by Joe Biden calling 80 million Americans garbage. I don't think that's snowflakery. I mean, I do remember for the last 3 days, all I've heard is Democrats screaming.
You're all ignoring all the things Trump has said.
Hang on.
You guys are so
hang on,
nuts.
Cenk, you've had your say. You've had your say. I'll come
Trump
back to you,
is the
Cenk.
most vicious
All I would
politician
say
of
is
our lifetime.
the
And
way
now
Democrats
he's like pure as the driven snow.
Wait a second. The way
You're
Democrats have
ridiculous.
pivoted. Hang on. The way Democrats have pivoted in the last 3 days from garbage is the worst slur imaginable to just because Joe Biden calls 80 million Americans garbage, suddenly, why are you getting so offended? Is laughable. Emily, to you.
Okay, let me make something clear. The Republicans are not snowflakes, and since Biden called the Americans who support Trump garbage, all I've seen on X are memes of people going to vote now in garbage bags, memes of people putting trash cans on the street and saying it's a family portrait. Republicans are not snowflakes, and truth be told, I don't think anyone's offended because, yes, our sitting president, who has nuclear codes, is a senile old man that, let me remind everyone, Kamala literally 2.5 months ago was endorsing him and reminding everyone that he is sharp as a tack. But here's the issue. It doesn't speak to the Republicans. It's showing the American people, despite Harris Walz claiming they're the party of unity and they're for everyone, and yes, Harris is a continuation of Biden, who's failed as a president, they claim to try to unite everyone. But then the sitting president goes out and says, oh, you all are garbage. We don't care what he says. He's delusional. But it speaks to their character, it speaks to their party, and it speaks to their values.
Bingo.
And that is a problem, that they're showing the American people their true colors. Republicans don't care. Call us garbage.
How about
call
your
us deplorables. We just want our president in office.
Okay,
Let's talk about
Vajra, I mean, look,
How about
I
your
think
values?
whatever. Hang on,
all
hang on,
Trump
Cenk. I'll
does is
come back to
attack
you.
us
No, Cenk, let me-
8,000 times, and you
We don't
totally
call you
ignore
Hitler.
that.
We don't
Hang
call
on,
you
let
Hitler.
me bring-
We don't say should
Guys,
we go
let
to
me-
camps for
hang on,
re-education.
He's
hang
called
on.
us every name in the book. He
Hang
has.
on,
He's
we're
called
coming
us
to Hitler.
fascist. He's called us
We're
Marxists.
coming to Hitler. We're coming to Hitler, which is now only the second most offensive thing of the week. Vajra, from a political point of view, the stupidity of what Biden did can't be overstated, really, because Kamala Harris, I watched it last night. Look, I think she talks a lot of word salad nonsense. Honestly, I do. She wouldn't inspire me to open a crisp packet, let alone vote for her. However, she's the Democrat nominee. The polls are absolutely neck and neck, particularly in the swing states. The very last thing she would have wanted when she's presented her final argument to the nation is for Joe Biden, the guy she's replaced, who's still her president, to pop up on a Skype call of all things and say this kind of thing, which, whether it's been misinterpreted or not, and I don't think it has been, it's just such a gift to Republicans, isn't it?
This is me playing the world's smallest violin for all the fake outrage of MAGA and Trump supporters, who I believe are the most fickle, brittle, weak people on earth, who can dispense cruelty and demand civility,
Great outreach
who
to
hate
voters.
safe spaces for everyone, want safe spaces for themselves, and who, by the way, with this
Great
hypocritical
outreach.
fake outrage, the reason why I don't think most people will care is because people
deplorables.
know what Trump is for the past 9 years. And just yesterday, Donald Trump, who is running for president, Joe Biden is not, and Joe Biden, he's 81 years old, he has a stutter, and by the way, I appreciate the context that he gave. I don't think he needed to, but he did. Donald Trump yesterday, final pitch to the country. You know what he called America? A garbage can. Donald Trump said all of us, 340 million Americans, live in a garbage can. Yes, he did. Yesterday in his speech, he said America is a garbage can. Yesterday, Donald Trump said Democrats, who are the majority, are sick and evil people. Yesterday, folks, Donald Trump, when
you start
confronted
calling people
with these
Hitler, it's a
offensive
good
comments,
context. If you talk about context,
let me
that's
finish,
context.
Ben, don't gish gallop. Ben, I'm about to kick your ass. Don't gish gallop. Just listen to me. I listen to you.
Dude, you're like a buck
Yesterday,
of 20,
when
and
Donald
this
Trump
is
was
what liberals
confronted,
do, okay?
Just-
I laugh this.
just let me listen. I'm gonna do it with a smile on my face.
Hang on, hang on, calm down.
I'm gonna beat you up.
Don't talk over each other because people can't
Ben,
hear. But I do really,
Ben,
hang on,
I'm
I do
really-
want to see.
I'm
Hang on,
cringing
hang
right
on,
now,
Ben.
Piers.
Ben,
I'm
hang
afraid
on.
I'm gonna get beat up here.
Hang on. I do want to see Vajra try and kick Ben Ferguson's ass. So off you go, Vajra.
Not gonna happen.
I'm going to do it with a smile on my face. I'm going to do it relaxed. Yesterday, when Donald Trump was confronted with, I'm glad you and Ben and Piers agree that it was horrific, disgusting comments against Puerto Rico, black people, against Jews, against Palestinians, against women, which, by the way, have rallied Puerto Ricans all across America. You know what Donald Trump said? No big deal. Yesterday, this past week, J.D. Vance said, get over it. J.D. Vance, his vice president, is the one who called him Hitler. By the way, guess who said that Donald Trump praises Hitler? 4-star General John Kelly, just in the past 2 weeks. In the final 2 weeks of his campaign to unify America, you know what Donald Trump said? That the people who are against him are enemy of the people, another Hitler line, and he said he would unleash the military and the National Guard against U.S. citizens. Against immigrants and migrants, he said he will invoke the Alien Sedition Act that in turn Japanese Americans. This is the same man who ran against the same man who promoted a neo-Nazi conspiracy about Haitian immigrants eating pets, even after he was told it was a lie. The Wall Street Journal, funded by Murdoch, not a left-wing rag, a right-wing outlet, reported that him and Vance were told it was a lie. He still said it, which has caused stochastic terrorism in Springfield, Ohio. So this is Donald Trump. The majority of people don't care. The majority of people know Biden apologized, he stuttered, and the majority of people saw Kamala Harris at the ellipse. 75,000 people came. You saw the last point. Last point I'll make. Last point I'll make. 75,000 people came out to see Kamala Harris at the ellipse. I'm so glad she was at the ellipse, because you know why? It's a contrast. Kamala Harris was there for the Constitution, for the United States of America, for the rule of law. Donald Trump incited a violent insurrection. And just 2 weeks ago at Univision, when the 56-year-old Latino construction worker asked him to apologize for it, he didn't. And you saw that view of those Latino women. He is going to lose. I'm here for the MAGA tears. They're sugar for my chai.
Okay, he said for the MAGA tears, Ben. Are you prepared to start crying?
I go back to, and this is why I feel like it's going to be a very strong election night. There's nothing that was just talked about that matters to the people that are hurting and suffering in this country right now. Nothing that was just said there was unifying. Nothing that was just said there was about the concerns of people that are struggling in this country with inflation, with illegal immigration, with convicted terrorists coming across the border, with those that are convicted of murder and rape that are coming across the border. There is zero concern for the American people in your closing argument. And this is the reason why Donald Trump will win on election night.
Ben, do you agree?
Your only thing you can do and come out and say is, if I disagree with you, I'm going to kick your ass, which, by the way, goes back to what you guys do. We don't like you, we lock you up. We imprison you. We put you in prison.
Ben, do you agree with Donald Trump?
And then you're like, I don't like it. I'm going to kick your ass. Like, this is your closing argument. You guys need to, like, get out of junior high.
I wasn't the one. I didn't participate in a violent insurrection, Ben. I didn't participate in a violent insurrection.
I denounced it when it happened. So guess what? We're not all. See, this is the difference.
Okay, wait.
You guys hate half of America. And you don't understand that your hatred is
Piers,
saying everyone is bad when one person or two people
let's let Emily say something.
Donald Trump hates all of America.
Gentlemen, let's let the lady speak. Emily.
Please.
Boys. The problem is that I think the Democratic Party, they're way too emotional about this election. And it's funny that Wajahat's calling the MAGA people the sensitive ones. When you cry over misgendering someone, when a dude looks like a dude and identifies as a woman and is called she, you start crying. So don't talk to me about oversensitivity. That's a definition of the Democratic Party.
Yes, homophobia and go after the transgenders.
You guys have TDS syndrome. You don't understand that this is not about emotions. Ben just said it perfectly. Every single argument that the left uses against the right are not real factors that impact the American people. They're not factors that keep America safe. It's nothing that helps the economy. You focus solely on how does Trump make me feel when I go to sleep at night. He doesn't like women. He made a joke about a black person and a Jew and a Muslim and a Christian. Listen to me, that comedian, you guys are pretending suddenly everyone cares about Puerto Rico, but when they were after hurricane, no one gave a damn about them. But let's just forget that for a moment. This comedian makes fun of everyone. So talk about selective outrage. That joke caused selective outrage because he literally rips every demographic of people. And let me tell you the difference. This comedian is not our sitting president. When the sitting president calls half of America garbage, that's a bigger problem than a comedian who rips every group of people speaking at a rally. Do me a favor, selective outrage. You guys can't stop crying nonstop about your TDS.
Yeah, I mean, I do think the point about Tony Hinchcliffe is... Hang on. The point about Tony Hinchcliffe, if you watch the Netflix Tom Brady roast special, he is the star of that roast. He says stuff that makes what he said at the Madison Square Garden seem like a tea party. I mean, he is an offensive roaster of absolutely everyone and everything. And nobody seemed to mind when he was doing it in a Netflix special, which is still available.
They loved
Tom Brady's roasting. Everyone found him hilarious. And my point to you, Cenk,
Did it fit
would
any
be that
political agenda?
Jon Stewart, of all people, came forward and said, I'm sorry, I find this guy funny. And I wonder how many of the people screaming about Tony Hinchcliffe's jokes quietly found him quite funny. I didn't particularly, but a lot of people would have found his humour funny if they know he's a roaster. But I'm feigning outrage. And then the moment Biden, who is the president of the United States, uses exactly the same word to slur 80 million Americans, suddenly we should all stop being offended. You can't have it both ways.
Yeah, so first of all, I respect Jon Stewart. So when he said he likes him as a comic, fine. But you're wrong about one thing. He slurred all of those minorities. You're right. But there's one group he didn't touch at all: white people, and men, and MAGA. What a funny coincidence from a brave roaster. So you're in front of MAGA, you don't roast them at all. All you do is roast people you don't like. Interesting. Okay, so now, but guys, this whole getting offended shtick that both sides are doing is maddening. There's a slight agreement there with Ben on, that I have on that. So after Trump does every insult in the world, you guys now are pretending that, oh my God, I caught the vapors. He called us garbage. After Trump, you loved when Trump said all these terrible things. So look at what actually is going on. Why is Kamala Harris pointing out at the end that Donald Trump is a unique danger? Because if you're being honest, he is a unique danger. You don't have to go to internment camps. You don't have to go to Hitler analogies, etc. But when the guy says that the left is the enemy from within and he might use the military on them, and there are his own advisors who said, yes, we had conversations in the White House where Trump asked us if we could use the military to shoot protesters in the leg, which, by the way, shooting protesters, it doesn't get any more cancel culture than that. And he said after he lost that we should terminate the Constitution. If that's not a unique danger to the Constitution and the democracy, what is? And if you say we shouldn't point that out, we shouldn't point out that a guy wanted to terminate the Constitution and shoot the protesters with the U.S. military, and you don't get why that sounds like, and fill in the blank, fascist, dictator, wannabe, whatever word you want, but that sounds super dangerous.
This is the problem. This was not corroborated by people in a large group. The majority of people around Trump said that what you just described, including the comments from last week, never, ever happened. And the people that say it are people that hate Donald Trump. So that's number one. Number two, I look at what he did in office.
They're his own staffers.
He didn't start wars.
It's his
he didn't start wars. Let me finish. He didn't start wars. He ended wars. He had the lowest unemployment for Hispanic Americans and African Americans in history. He had interest rates down in 2+% on a 30-year mortgage. He had inflation down. People could afford to live. And I go back to the closing argument theme here. Piers, if this is what Democrats want to talk about till Election Day, 6 days from now, then knock yourself out, because you're going to lose, because none of this is about the suffering of Americans in this country right now. None of it's about safety. None of it's about ending wars. None of it is about the people that are hurting, living paycheck to paycheck right now. And that is what Donald Trump is talking about here. And the Democrats are saying we hate half of America. You're garbage. The president of the United States of America is saying it. The vice president is saying he's a fascist and Hitler. If that is your closing argument, you are going to lose. And I go back to Barack Obama. Barack Obama understood retail politics. You have to give something that makes people think about a future that's better than it is right now. When he went on Hope and Change, yes, it was rhetoric, but it worked because it gave people hope for the future. And this party right now is filled with hate. The Democratic Party is filled with hate. Harris and her team are filled with hate for half of America. That's how you don't win an election.
Okay, let me
ask.
Okay, hang on. Let me ask Vajat this. Vajat, here's what I'm curious about.
Clarify two things he said wrong.
No, hang on. I'm going to go to Vajat. Let me just put this to you. Kamala Harris had a pretty good start when she replaced Joe Biden. The polls were good for her. She had a good convention. The coronation, you can criticize it for being undemocratic, but it was a very good period for her. But she did it with a very positive mantra. It was going to be joy and hope and the promised land and all the rest of it, exactly what Ben Ferguson just said. What I can't understand is why she's abandoned that from a political perspective to go full-on Trump bashing, given that for Hillary Clinton in 2016, when she did that, and you can even extend it to having all the pop stars like Beyonce and so on getting on stage with her stuff, it's exactly the same playbook of Hillary Clinton. We know that didn't work for Hillary. Surrounding herself with elite pop stars and hammering Trump 24/7 failed spectacularly. The most qualified person in presidential history lost to the least qualified person. So why would she abandon? I'm just genuinely curious, having watched this from afar, why has she abandoned what looked like a good strategy of hope and positivity to go full-on Trump bashing? Because the thing Trump relies on more than anything is being the center of attention. And right now, all anyone is talking about is Donald Trump.
Yesterday, if you saw her speech, her closing argument at the Ellipse in Washington, D.C., which was attended by 75,000 people, she just did that. She landed the plane. It was about forward-looking optimism. It was about restoring rights. And she put it in the context of history, of struggle. She talked about Seneca Falls. She talked about Stonewall. And she also made a compare and contrast. I'm so glad she did it at the Ellipse in Washington, D.C., because there are stakes here. There's not just two sides. This isn't Mitt Romney. This isn't John McCain. This isn't George W. Bush. This is her versus the man who refuses to admit that he lost the 2020 election, who incited a violent insurrection, whose MAGA supporters took a shit in the U.S. Capitol, who to this day, when asked, did he lose the election, he says no. To this day, he promotes the lie where a majority of Republican voters believe Donald Trump's lie that he won the election, that he lost. He is priming the pump for this type of hate. He has promoted neo-Nazi conspiracies against Haitians. He said he will unleash the military against United States citizens in the final 2 weeks of the election. This is a man who quotes Hitler saying that immigrants poison the blood. So what Kamala Harris is saying is, look, I'm going to take us forward. I'm going to restore Roe v. Wade. Who brags about overturning Roe v. Wade?
We win on election
Donald
day.
Trump. Who has died as a result of Donald Trump and Supreme Court justices overturning Roe v. Wade? Women in Georgia. They did not have access to health care. Who said the most beautiful word in the American language, English language, is tariffs? Donald Trump said that at Joe Rogan. He said whale psychologist, Hannibal Lecter. Let's do economy real quick. When economic experts have compared both plans of Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, overwhelmingly, who says the plan of Kamala Harris works better for the American people? Every single Nobel laureate
That is
economist.
Goldman Sachs
Donald
came out
Trump,
and said
Donald
they were taken
Trump,
out of context.
Ben, just hold on. Stop.
Came out
Stop.
and said
Stop.
that
Just
what
stop.
they said in the
Calm
campaign
down.
trail was
Ben,
a lie.
Take it down. Ben,
I don't care about your other
take
lies.
it down.
I don't
Ben,
care about your
take
other
it
lies.
down.
But when you
Ben,
say
take
this
it
to the
down.
American
There's
people
no
who
other
are
lies.
suffering,
Ben, just relax.
Again,
Let
I know
me
you're going to
finish.
kick my ass.
Let me
Yada
finish.
yada. People can laugh.
No,
I'll go back to this.
It's already done.
Goldman
It's already
Sachs
done. Let me just
came out
finish. Let me
and
just finish.
said that is a lie. They said that that was not what their report said. And when you insult the American people and you tell them that the economy is great right now and Bidenomics is working when it's not working and they're suffering and hurting,
let me just
and
finish.
then you say that they say her campaign plan is going to work better, Goldman Sachs said you're full of shit, to quote you from earlier.
Okay, let me just finish real quick. So go back, look at the facts, look at the I'm going to finish.
That's not
yeah,
nuts.
Nobel
Again,
laureate say her plan is better. Wait, just let me finish.
Harris. They never said that. Y'all brought it up.
Give me 15 seconds.
They brought it up.
Give me 15 seconds. Donald Trump wants to have trade wars, tariffs. It'll increase costs for the United States. He wants to give tax cuts to the rich. He has no plan for health care, but he wants to destroy Obamacare. According to Project 2025, no real plan for Social Security and Medicare. Roe v. Wade, listen, he praises overturning Roe v. Wade. So yes, everyone's paying attention, Piers. This is why she's leading in the polls, the A+ polls. This is why I believe she will win. This is why she had 75,000 people at the Ellipse and Donald Trump had 20,000 people at Madison Square Garden. And people are paying attention to Donald Trump, who yesterday said we live in a garbage can.
Again, actually what he said.
There you go. Now's your time.
Hang on.
Can I answer
what he
your
actually
question?
said, he actually didn't say that we're all living in a garbage can. He said that the situation on the border has turned America into a garbage can for the rest of the world. Very different context.
He called America into a garbage can.
Bingo.
I'm just saying, different context to the one you said. Let me bring in. I want to shift gears. I want to bring in Emily. I want to just shift gears a bit to Israel. A lot of talk in the last 48 hours about whether there may be a deal between Israel and ending this war with Hamas. Obviously, we've had the ongoing situation in Lebanon and so on. Whoever wins this election is going to be very transformative in many ways and very significant, but not least, I would imagine, in how we get things sorted in the Middle East if we can. What do you think about what is happening right now? Do you think a deal is a genuine prospect? And how significant will it be depending on whether Trump or Harris wins?
At this point in the war, a Trump or Harris administration, at this point, I don't think will make a big difference. I think maybe 6 months ago it would have been the world's difference in terms of a ceasefire deal, bringing the hostages home. But at the point that it's at now, Hamas is not even hanging on by a thread. They killed the head of the cancer. They killed Sinwar. Now they're starting with Iran. That's another story. But they really have nothing left to hold on to. All Hamas is doing is demonizing and harassing Israel, and Israel's losing its soldiers every day. And they're hurting the Palestinian people who didn't sign up for this war that Hamas started on their behalf. So this war is dragging and dragging and dragging. When will they surrender? So now hopefully Sinwar, the head of the snake, at least in Gaza, you know, without his leadership, hopefully they'll feel like it's reaching its dead end. But you know what the problem is? I don't know if they care about the innocent deaths lost. Sinwar himself said all the civilian casualties is just a necessary process and it's part of war. So given that Hamas doesn't value life, I don't know if it will end. They don't care about the hostages. They don't care about the Palestinians. They don't give a damn about Kamala Harris, let me tell you that. So at this point, it's just when will they give it up? When will they realize they're losing and they've already lost this war?
All right, Cenk, your response to that?
Yeah, first, you didn't let me correct Ben, so let me just correct him real quick. Trump said terminate the Constitution himself. It's on Truth Social. You could look it up. And he said we should attack the enemy from within in the military. It's on tape. So in terms of Israel, look, I was heartened that the strikes that Israel did on Iran were not devastating, meaning that it is a lower chance of war. So it's a rare, slight act of restraint. I'll take it. If there's really any chance for a ceasefire in the next couple of days, that would be amazing. I don't care who's responsible for it. She's now saying like it's not a big deal who brought it to you because it looks like maybe Biden and Kamala Harris are going to bring it to you. But I don't care. Anybody can take credit for it as long as it gets done. The idea that the Palestinians made the Israelis slaughter 42,000 of them at a bare minimum is absurd. No, Israel did that
according
on purpose.
To Hamas.
So I think that the reason,
according to Hamas.
According to reality, objective reality, every news organization, every human rights organization, Israel's killed more journalists, more human rights workers, slaughtered over 15,000 children. They're continuing to slaughter.
It's like I'm listening to Hamas
Northern Gaza
human
as we
shields
speak.
being used.
Yeah,
I don't see any outrage on human
interrupt,
shields.
Terrorist
Israeli
propaganda
parrots.
brought to you by Cenk right
so,
now.
Like you do. You interrupt, that's okay.
propaganda, total, utter terrorist propaganda is what you guys are doing.
It is.
So,
Only
You're
you
defending the
now,
terrorists.
It's only
Just
your
like
you guys are
right?
doing terrorist
Cenk is right,
propaganda on
Emily's
behalf of the
wrong. That's the
IDF.
truth.
You guys have killed
So
four. You
IDF
guys
Also,
have
Hamas
killed
Hamas
propaganda-
40 times
Hamas
more
propaganda
Hang on,
is
don't
better
speak over
than
each other. We can't hear.
You're supporting a
Speak over each
terrorist
other.
Hamas
Let's
is
state.
telling the
Cenk,
truth.
hang on.
So they
Let
always
Cenk finish his
interrupt.
point, and I will come to Emily and Ben. Cenk?
Look, whenever you criticize Israel, everybody goes, no, interrupt. Don't let him make points against our beloved Israel. Israel is not part of America. We have to stop sending them money to go slaughter all those innocent people in southern Lebanon and northern Gaza. But guys, all I want is a two-state solution. So if they get to a ceasefire and we get on the road to peace, I would be ecstatic. And I want a safe haven for Jews in Israel. I want Palestine to be a country and to have sovereignty that Israel has denied them for 6 brutal decades in their colonization and their oppression of those poor people. Stop defending the slaughter, the genocide, the ethnic cleansing, and the occupation of innocent human beings.
All right, Ben, your
Here's the
response.
problem. Here's the problem. 2 things here. Number one, for you to get a 2-state solution, then you'd have to actually say that the terrorists need to die, number one. And number 2, the terrorists would have to
They're all
actually
dead
stop
already.
shooting, let me finish, from the river to the sea. The idea that you have a same group of people sitting down with the Jews who they
Netanyahu
raped
says that.
and killed
Literally,
and murdered.
Netanyahu says
Let me
that.
finish. I understand you support the terrorists. I'm okay with that. I understand your point.
No,
You're
you
standing with
support the
Hamas and
terrorists.
Hezbollah.
You're
I
a
understand that.
terrorist-loving
I get this.
supporter of the IDF.
This is the difference in this election. I understand your point, but this is the difference in this election. I stand with the people that were attacked in Israel by terrorists who butchered and beheaded and took hostages. You stand with the terrorists that killed innocent babies and stabbed them in their cribs. We are not the same here. We are different here.
You're an
My
absolute
side doesn't
liar.
chant. death to America.
Liar.
Your side
I don't
chants
stand with
death
Hamas.
to Israel
I hate
and
it
death
when
to America.
Hamas killed those
There's
civilians.
a difference here.
But you don't
There's a
mind at
difference.
all. You
I
don't mind at
chant
all
from the
that
river
Israel
to the
killed
sea.
40
You chant
times the number of
from the
civilians.
river to the
40
sea.
times the number of babies.
Again,
all those
again,
dead Palestinian
who killed
babies, and you love it because you support
October
the
What
terrorist
does a
state of
two-state
Israel.
solution look like if it's governed by Hamas?
Who attacked?
Because that's what happened.
Who attacked
There was
October
a two-state
7th?
solution. There was peace.
Nothing but excuses
There
for
was
never
peace on
giving the
October
Palestinians
6th.
sovereignty.
How do you have a
Defending
two-state
terrorists.
Hang on,
solution?
let me-
These
hang on,
Muslim
hang on, hang on.
savages
That's
can't
not
handle
Everyone's
true.
talking
sovereignty.
again. Hang on. Let me just bring in Vajah. I wanted to say something. Vajah.
Yeah, I stand for peace and justice for all people there, Palestinians, Israelis, Muslims, Christians, Jews. I'm against genocide. I'm against terrorism. You know, Piers, you've invited me on your show for the past year to discuss this topic. I think we agree a lot more than we disagree. We've seen the horrors, right? You and I, you've asked me multiple times, even proactively, I said I've condemned Hamas's terrorist attacks. It's inexcusable. 1,200 Jews that were killed. And you and I have seen with the horror of the past year where Benjamin Netanyahu, who is deeply unpopular in Israel, his war machine has killed over 42,000 people. The war has now expanded to the West Bank. Just wait, West Bank. It has expanded to Lebanon. It has expanded to Syria, right? The hostages have not been returned. Hamas has been weakened but not destroyed. And you've been covering this for a long time. I've been covering this for a long time. Military solutions haven't worked, Piers, right? It's just devastation and chaos. What needs to happen, you know this, I know this, is Israel has to end the occupation of the Palestinian people and the settlements. And I agree with Cenk, whether it's Republicans who get it done or Democrats who get it done, it needs to get done for the region, for regional security. This is madness. Israel said recently they're going to pursue a strategy of de-escalation through escalation. Their words, not mine. Has it worked, Piers? It has not worked. We have seen children die, women die. We've seen more kids die in the past year. Israel's killed more kids in the past year than in any other region. More journalists have been killed by Israel. More UN workers. Hospitals
Yemen,
bombed. Refugee
Afghanistan,
camps bombed.
Syria,
Let me,
Libya.
okay, but let me, all right,
you and I
okay,
have-
but-
just let me
Vajah,
finish.
let me put this to you.
Piers, you and I have talked about it. You know,
let me
just-
put this to you. Let me put this to you, which is, notwithstanding all of what you've just said, the one part of that I would question is from a pure military point of view. Well, I would question two things you said. One is that Netanyahu's popularity has never been higher in the last year than it is today. And that is because what he's done to decapitate the leadership of Hezbollah and Hamas.
Yes, it is.
His ratings, his party.
The polls say he's
let
more
me talk.
popular
Let me
now
talk.
than he's ever
Ben, let me talk. I've got this. Netanyahu was very unpopular before. Israelis universally were supportive of the mission to get rid of Hamas, but they didn't support Netanyahu. That situation has changed in the polls now. Netanyahu, because of the decapitation of leadership of Hezbollah and Hamas, has never been more popular now in his own country, which has been an interesting turnaround in his own personal poll ratings. So on that, that's wrong. Secondly, from a military perspective, whatever you think of the, as they would put it, collateral damage, as I and you would put it, as this appalling loss of civilian life that's been going on, there's no doubt that Israel, from a pure military perspective, has made serious inroads against who they perceive to be their terrorist enemy of Hezbollah and Hamas. You can't question the military success they've had. You can question the proportionality of what they've done and the civilian deaths. But I don't think you can argue right now that Israel has not been incredibly successful in taking out the heads of Hamas and Hezbollah, because they have.
The reason why I respond to you this way is this is not a new story. This is what I've called, and I will say again, is a Pyrrhic victory. In '82, when they invaded Lebanon, killed 20,000 people, right? Tried to weaken the PLO. They occupied Lebanon until 2000. Guess what happened? Civilian damage. They had their victory. They weakened PLO. What rose? Hezbollah. Before Nasrallah, they killed the first leader of Hezbollah. Nasrallah came, right? As long as the occupation persists, the problems will persist. The occupation has to end. And now Israel, if you look at the worldwide polls, you know this, Piers, it is a pariah. The United States and those who support Israel and Netanyahu are seen as pariahs. They're global outliers. Benjamin Netanyahu and Hamas leaders are accused of war crimes. We've seen the spike in Islamophobia, the spike of anti-Semitism. Has it made Israel safer? It has not. And the last thing I'll say is the family members of the hostages have been protesting Netanyahu. And the family members of the hostages have said that he does not care about the hostages. He only cares about staying in power because, much like Trump, we know that this man is also what? Has allegedly committed crimes. And if he actually steps down, what will happen? He'll most likely go to jail. So he needs the war. He needs the war.
Let me bring in Emily. Emily first to respond to that.
Okay, the only correct part about everything that he said was that, yes, the hostage families are heavily protesting Netanyahu because they feel that their children should come home at any cost. And putting myself in their shoes, you have to understand where they're coming from. No judgment there. So I want to execute the situation of a two-state solution. Let's just talk about that for a minute. Unoccupy, remove the occupations, get rid of the settlements. Okay, let's go back to 2005. Let's say we give more land like we gave Gaza in 2005, and the Palestinians now have full sovereignty, and then boom, you have a terrorist group like Hamas that hijacks the country, turns it into a military zone, builds tunnels instead of hospitals, puts rocket launchers in nurseries, makes hospitals Hamas's HQ. What two-state solution could be done under a group of terrorists? It's like, what would Al-Qaeda do if they were given land? What would Hezbollah do if they completely hijacked Lebanon? It's like you're oversimplifying the idea of a two-state solution. I want a two-state solution, but it has to be governed by a non-terrorist group. Why is that so much to ask for? Hamas ruined Gaza.
Yeah,
like, let's say the West Bank, what, the PLO is going to take over? Boom, rockets every single day into Israel, just like Gaza, just like Lebanon. There is no peace with terrorists. And you guys are really making it seem like, oh, if they just unoccupied the occupational lands in the West Bank, then there's peace.
And everybody would get along and sing
They stop launching rockets into Israel.
Before I go to Cenk, hang on, Cenk, before I go to you, Cenk, for a response. What I would say, Emily, the one thing which I find incomprehensible and completely indefensible is the aggressive expansion in a violent manner of the settlements on the West Bank. I think that has been an indisputable form of terrorism that's been going on there, and it should not have been happening. Can we at least agree on that?
Yes.
Good. See, I think this is where it gets constructive, because there are parts of this which are indefensible. I can see both Cenk and Wajahat surprised by that response, but I thought Emily might say that, because it's indefensible. And there are parts of this on both sides which are utterly indefensible, where you can't even argue about it, and that is one of them. Cenk, let me try and take things forward. How do we get to peace here, do you think, genuinely? I mean, how can we see a way out of this, the other end?
Yeah, so listen, first of all, we all agree on this panel that Hamas killing those 1,200 people in Israel was terrible, right? And we should never kill civilians, and that's terrorism. But when we turn around and say, hey, Israel killed 40 times the number of civilians, they say, no, all of a sudden that's not terrorism. All of a sudden, you know why? Because they think Palestinian lives don't really count. So now when you turn to them and say, hey, let's do two states, Israel should be safe. And you guys, the minute we mentioned the Palestinian lives that were lost and the fact that they've killed a stadium full of women and children, you go, no big deal, they're all terrorists, okay? It's disgusting the way you guys talk about Palestinians. So now when you get,
there's
a very obvious answer here. Yeah. There's a very obvious, hey, let me finish. There's a very obvious answer here, which is peace. Now, it's not idealistic, it's not kumbaya. We've already done it, and we haven't just done it generally, we did it here. They did a peace deal with Egypt, Israel did. We got them to do that peace deal. And it has worked fantastically. All of the people, just like Ben and the others here, said at the time, oh, the Egyptians are terrorists. The Egyptians will never listen to it. The Egyptians will keep bombing us because the Egyptians are anti-Semitic and everybody's anti-Semitic and they're never going to listen to it. They're going to keep attacking us because they want to destroy us. Everyone at the time said that about Egypt because they didn't want a peace deal with Egypt. They wanted to take more land. Well, guess what happened? They did the peace deal, and Egypt never bombed Israel after that. The peace deal worked. There is a solution to get Israel safety. But unfortunately, the people in charge of Israel right now don't care that they butchered 40 times the number of people that the Hamas terrorists did, and they don't care about Palestinians at all or peace.
What about the people in charge of Gaza?
The Israeli hostages. What they care about is they want to occupy. Let me finish. They want to occupy more of the West Bank, and they're making plans to occupy northern Gaza now. Why do you think Netanyahu is supporting Trump? because he knows the minute that Trump gets in, if he moves settlers into northern Gaza after his ethnic cleansing, Trump's going to say, yeah, go ahead and do it. Finish them. Who cares? Trump is saying more war, more bombing, more genocide. That's why Netanyahu wants Trump.
Okay, let me get Ben Ferguson's response to that. Ben?
What about the leadership in Gaza?
There's no lie in that statement at all.
So Hamas is a good governor
Okay,
of Gaza?
hang on. Before I go to Ben,
that's
on that one point,
Piers,
Emily,
let me address
hang on,
that.
Cenk, hang
because
on.
all they ever say is, they think every Palestinian is a terrorist. It's
nobody has said that.
So whenever you say, hey, let's make a peace deal, they go, oh, we can't, we can't.
Maybe you do that. You keep saying it. No one else is saying that.
Hang on. The only panel member to say that is you, Cenk. You're the only one that's used that phrase.
Thank you.
Piers, let me explain. No,
my question.
Every time we say let's make a peace deal, every time we say let's make a peace deal,
talk
they
over
say
each
we
other.
can't because every one of their representatives is a terrorist.
Before I go to
so
Ben,
who do you want Israel to make a peace deal with? Name one Palestinian you find acceptable. Name one Palestinian you find acceptable to make a peace deal with. You won't because you don't want peace. All you want to do is slaughter more Palestinians.
Okay, I would like to have peace and not slaughter more Palestinians. Please calm down. Let me just ask you, Cenk, the question Emily raised before I go to Ben, which was this. Can Hamas have any part in the government of Gaza after this? Yes or no?
So the African National Congress also attacks civilians. So the apartheid government of South Africa.
Can you stick to Hamas?
Hold on, I'm answering your question.
No?
I'm answering your question.
You're talking about South Africa.
Okay.
It's not a trick question, dude.
Will you let me answer the goddamn question? Why do you have me on if you won't let me answer it? So listen.
And he
so
ran
they
for
said the
president?
African National Congress and Mandela are terrorists, so we won't deal with them. This is the excuse every apartheid state uses. So if I say you do a deal with Fatah, and then you could push out Hamas. And I've said that on your show for a year straight, Piers. There's a way to get rid of Hamas, especially they have no leaders now at this point anyway. So it's a perfect time to do a peace deal with Fatah for Palestinian sovereignty. But every time we go to make that deal, they do the same trick as the South Africa apartheid government. We can't. The African National Congress is terrorist. Mandela is a terrorist. Everyone we talk to on their side is a terrorist. That's why we have to keep oppressing them, enslaving them, imprisoning them. Oh, they made us do it. They made us do it because they dare to fight the occupation. So anyone who fights the occupation by definition is a terrorist. So we will only do a peace deal with someone who doesn't fight the occupation.
But Cenk,
that doesn't make any sense at all.
But Cenk, just to go back to my initial question, which
didn't answer the question.
Just to go back to my initial question, which could have been answered with yes or no.
I said push Hamas out.
So they can't have a rolling government after this.
I said make a deal with Abbas. I said make a deal with Abbas and push Hamas out. So the answer is no. Do you guys have trouble hearing?
Your answer is no.
Yeah, just ask Hamas to leave. Just ask them nicely to leave, right?
No, Piers, no. What they're saying is don't make a peace deal with anyone because all the Palestinian representatives are terrorists by their definition.
I simply
I'm asking all of you guys. I'm asking all of you guys. Name one Palestinian. Name one Palestinian. Name one Palestinian. Name one Palestinian. Name one Palestinian that would be acceptable to do a peace deal with. And guess what? You're not going to have one name because you don't want peace. Go ahead, name them.
Hang on. All right, Cenk. Let me ask Ben. Ben, name one Palestinian who would be acceptable for a government in Palestine going forward.
Any one of them that promises to not work with Hamas or Hezbollah is someone that you can do a deal with. The problem is you don't have one that you brought to the forefront. You don't have one. And I go back to what you keep saying, and I understand you hate the Jews, and I get that.
You killed everybody in Gaza.
Again, let me finish. Okay, let me finish. I understand that you're anti-Semitic. I got that. I think everybody watching understands that. What I will say is
you're a racist.
Right now,
you're a racist against Muslims, and you don't mind their babies being slaughtered. If you have their blood all over your hands, Ben.
Piers,
racist.
You go back to what he said earlier. Everything is somehow always the fault of Israel with him. That's what anti-Semitism is. If you want to end this war, you release the hostages. You release the hostages. If the terrorist groups want to stop what you describe as a slaughter, you release the hostages. But at the end of the day, if the only people that come to the table that are in charge of the Palestinian people are those that have direct ties to terrorism, you cannot do a deal with terrorists because the terrorists will never stop being terrorists. So I would ask you this question. Name one Palestinian leader
not one
that
person
you can bring to the table that has no ties to Hamas, Hezbollah, or Iran, that is willing to kick them out and kill them on their own. And then you will get a deal done that will also release the hostages. And the problem is you can't name one because it doesn't exist.
Mahmoud Abbas. I just named it.
Exist.
Mahmoud Abbas, I just named it, but you won't do a deal with him either.
So you think he will have nothing to do with any of the terrorists? You believe that truthfully? You honestly believe that he will say, we'll kill the terrorists,
person they
we will
eliminate
wipe out the
because they don't want
terrorists?
peace.
Hang on. Let me bring in Vajahat. Look, I want to bring this part of it to an end and go back to the election. I want to bring in Vajahat for the final word on this part of it.
We've all gotten that point.
Yeah.
Okay, Vajahat.
So listen, two things.
No, I have Jewish family. You're a liar.
No, let Vajahat speak, please.
Okay. All right, two things. I hope we're all against anti-Semitism, and if we are against anti-Semitism, I want to remind everyone that Donald Trump said he will blame Jews if he loses the 2024 election. Said it publicly. He has also promoted anti-Semitic conspiracies of dual loyalty. He also has dined with one of the leading anti-Semit white nationalists, Nick Fuentes, right? And by the way, no one cares, no one condemns him. Ben doesn't condemn him. Number two, right now the government of Israel, Prime Minister Netanyahu, has openly
condemned him for years. By the way, I condemn guys like Alex Jones when they were attacking Senate at the Republican convention in 2016. So calm down. When there's crazies in my party,
supporting a guy who calls himself a black Nazi.
Can I just say? Okay, so
hold on. Let me say this real quick.
I want to talk about.
Let me say this. Do you remember when Alex Jones came onto your
Sure.
stage? Do you remember when he came on your stage in 2016 at the Republican convention?
Yeah.
And do you remember when he got in my face when I was defending you, saying, let him do his show, let him talk, freedom of speech. He is a guest here, treat him with respect. And then he wanted to, quote, kick my ass. I want to be clear. When my party is out of line and there's crazies in my party, I say get rid of them. Fuentes is a great example. Alex Jones is a great example.
Candace Owens.
Can I just?
Candace Owens, great example.
I've seen Ben do that, by the way.
My turn. Your candidate for governor in North Carolina,
my turn, real quick.
The guy who calls himself a black Nazi.
I was calling.
No, but I want to be clear about that.
I called him out on Twitter.
Don't all talk over each other.
That's right, but Trump is still endorsing.
Hang on,
Trump is still endorsing a guy named a Nazi.
Let Vajahat talk. But Vajahat, you may want to just apologize to Ben for. Well, up to you, but I think you should.
So Ben, I appreciate you said that. I'm glad. I wish more people did. I have a question for you, and I just want to then wrap up with Netanyahu. Do you condemn Donald Trump dining with Nick Fuentes? And after Donald Trump was told who Nick Fuentes is, for the past 2 years, Donald Trump has refused to condemn Nick Fuentes. Do you condemn Donald Trump for that?
I said it when it happened. He should never be dining with him. I said that Candace Owens was an anti-Semite early on and took a ton of heat from my party. I'm not afraid of that. And I also said this.
So you said it. I just want to say clearly.
What I will say is this. Listen to what I'm saying.
Do you condemn him?
You asked a question.
Let him answer.
He didn't have anything to do with him afterwards, which actions speak louder than words. And he has disappeared from anything close to the Trump campaign. That's what I care about, is if you learn from your mistake. Now, you want him to say something on paper.
That's not a condemnation.
I don't understand the obsession with that.
That's
I can
not a
only
condemnation.
speak for me here.
Okay, let me pivot that. Hang on. Let's end that. No,
I don't take that as a condemnation.
Well, I think we can all condemn Nick Fuentes. He's a repulsive individual. Let's move on to
no,
the
Piers, that's sad.
off.
Why can you all not condemn the fact that Nick Fuentes, the leading white nationalist, he dined with Donald Trump
Let me help you, Vajahat. Let me help you, Vajahat. Donald Trump should absolutely have condemned Nick Fuentes. He should condemn him.
I'm glad you said that.
He is condemnable by everybody. There you go.
Thank you.
Emily, let me just, I want to round off the last few minutes, talk about the election again. Who do you think is going to win? Who do you actually think is going to win this?
Seriously, I'm not even exaggerating. If you asked me yesterday, I'd say it's 50-50. I think Biden officially put the nail in the coffin. And now I think Donald Trump has it, no doubt.
Okay, Cenk, do you think that, I mean, you said at the weekend, I think, that Trump was heading for victory. Do you still feel that?
Yeah, the polls are so mixed, it's impossible to predict this one. And I love doing predictions, but it is Seems to be exactly tied. Every poll contradicts the one before it. Now, having said that, my intuition was that Trump was going to win because I'm an honest actor. And so it doesn't matter what you want. What matters is what is more likely. But having said that, I said the one caveat is he loves to juggle hand grenades that he took the pin out of politically and rhetorically. And one dropped in Madison Square Garden and others keep dropping. And the more he does the wild, outrageous attacks and calling people enemy from within, the more he loses senior voters, which are critical. And a lot of women are going to vote against him that are unlikely voters, which was Trump's advantage in previous elections. It might be Kamala Harris's advantage now. So at this point, I am at exactly even.
Okay, Ben, what do you think is going to happen? I mean, I'll tell you my gut feeling. I have a gut feeling which might be completely wrong, but my gut feeling, especially having been in America for the last few days, I've got a feeling Trump could win big. Now, I might be wrong, but I'm just getting that feeling like I had back in 2016 that actually we're all going to wake up and he will have won a significant victory.
Yeah, you and I spent election night together in 16 at Times Square. And you and I both were saying the same thing in the days before. There was a feel of a momentum that Hillary Clinton had hit the ceiling, and there was some arrogance there, and that she was owed it, and it was just going to be a cakewalk, and Donald Trump wasn't real. I'm feeling that now, and I think with calling half of the country garbage, and that is the last thing that people are going to hear. If you were thinking about staying home and not going to vote for Donald Trump, that might put you in a swing state over the line to say, you know what, I'm going to get off the couch and I'm going to go vote for Donald Trump because you just said that a bunch of people are garbage. I think that might be the most critical error we've seen in modern political history in a presidential campaign in the closing week. If it would have been said 3 weeks ago or 2 weeks ago, I don't think it would have mattered. But it's the last thing people are hearing. And I understand some of you guys are laughing. I'm glad because it means you're not taking it seriously and you're laughing at the American people who are offended by it. But I think Donald Trump is now going to win this because of the arrogance and the laughing and the mocking of the American people by the left and the media mocking them and laughing at them.
All he's ever
that never
done.
plays well.
You guys sound so
last
unbelievably
word to
ridiculous.
Wajahat. Who's going to win?
You're defending the most hateful guy that's ever run for president as if he's a
Wajahat,
precious snowflake.
I don't want to hear Wajahat who you think.
Yeah.
Hang on. Hitler. We moved on from Hitler. We moved on from Hitler, which, by the way, I recommend everybody bloody moves on from Hitler. It is ridiculous we talk about Hitler in relation to Trump. He hasn't murdered 12 million people. He's not going to. Anyway, Wajahat, I don't want to ask you who you want to win. I just want to ask you who do you think is going to win right now?
So let me give you the answer. For the past 9 years, I've heard that liberals have made MAGA angry, and liberals have made MAGA upset, and liberals have made MAGA vote for Trump. And I've seen the movie Avengers. You ever see the end of the movie Avengers where Captain America turns to Bruce Banner and says, "Get angry"? And he says, "I'm always angry." MAGA's always angry about M&Ms, pronouns, about transgender, about cartoons, about Kaepernick. But you know who's really angry? Women. Women are angry that they lost their right. They lost Roe v. Wade. People are angry over a violent insurrection. People are angry over Donald Trump's racism, misogyny, and homophobia.
So who's going to win?
I believe, as of right now, Kamala Harris will win. She has the momentum.
Okay.
She has the energy, and she will get a lot of women, young people, and people of color. I think they'll put her over the top in the popular vote and the electoral college. She's going to win.
Okay. Do you know what I think is funny about the women thing? Just to make a final point. I keep hearing that the Democrats and Kamala, they're the people for women's rights. And yet they are the people who think it's fine for biological males to beat up women in boxing rings in women's sport. And I find that a laughable double standard. Anyway, we're not going to get into that. What a great debate. What a great panel. Please all come back. It's going to get ever more exciting. We're only 6 days away now. My gut is what it is, but 6 days is a long time in politics. Thank you all very much.